This is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons for the Intellivision video game system. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that this was my most favorite Intellivision game as a kid. It was simply awesome. It took the concept of the paper and pencil Dungeons & Dragons game and converted it to the video game world in a very nice, fluid way. And what you saw me just pull out there was an overlay for the controller on the Intellivision system. And if you're not familiar with Intellivision, virtually every game had overlays for the controller keypads, and consequently, they're with the Intellivision, they're pretty important to the game. So if you're looking at collecting Intellivision games, most of them are easy to find in the box like this one is. Because they kept little pouches for everything, like the instruction manual and the overlays, which were pretty important. So it's pretty common to find full boxes with everything intact with the with an Intellivision game for sale. Anyhow, you're looking at the opening map screen for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. And you are those three dots that represent three adventurers, which you can only control one at a time, and only after one dies, so it's almost like having three lives. And you can enter certain mountains. Other mountains are unpassable, and when you go up and touch them, it'll make a beep noise, which tells you they're impassable. Did you hear that? Those three clicks? That's your arrow count. If you hit the arrow count button on your keypad, it clicks for the number of arrows you have to give you an audio feedback on how many arrows you have. It's a pretty innovative feature. And actually, this entire game uses audio very effectively for an early system. The audio gives you a clue as to what's happening around you as you're exploring the caves, and you get to a part that you cannot see. But the audio might chime you in as to what type of creature is lurking right there. And I ran out of arrows, so I'm pretty much fucked right there. In fact, this game is so reliant upon audio in the gameplay that they incorporated some creatures in this gameplay just to disguise audio in other parts of it to make it harder. Like the bats can't actually hurt you, but their flapping wings cover up any other audio from creatures that would tip you off to another creature being present. Those things that I'm running over top of and picking up that look like gas station pumps, they're quivers of arrows. And those ladders are the exits to the stage. So you're going to want to look for exits and arrows at least on every map. And then other maps have, certain maps have things like that was a boat I just picked up. The boat helps you cross the rivers on the big maps. And the only two other items in the game that you can use like that are the axe, which is on a different map, and the key, which gets you past the gates. Once you acquire all these items, or at least enough to get you to the giant smoking mountain on the map screen, that's when you enter the final stage of the game. And it's another exploratory tunnel like these. And you have to find two halves of a crown that are both guarded by dragons. And once you get the two halves of the crown, the game ends and you win. This game has an ending. Nothing spectacular, the game just ends, but you can complete this game, which was fairly unique to games of the time. In the tunnels here, you'll see other things like those little dots in a row, which are tracks, animal tracks that tip you off that there's a creature nearby. And you'll pick that up as you play the game. You'll chime in on the clues they give you, and you'll explore rather slowly, which is interesting. It was a new pace in gameplay. Most of the games up until this point were about speed. This game you wanted to take slow, and you did better if you took it slow. Now let me talk briefly about the enemies you have in this game. And they are, you have the bats and the rats, which I believe, I know the bats don't hurt you. I'm pretty sure the rats don't hurt you either. And there's a spider there. Just shot myself with an arrow, which brings me to another point. Your arrows ricochet here in this game, and you can get hit with your own arrow and hurt yourself. So friendly fire is definitely on in this game, and it's a very early game to have something like friendly fire. That's generally something, might even be the first game with friendly fire involved in it. So anyhow, we have the bats, rats, and spiders. Pretty typical fare for adventure games at the time. And there weren't a whole lot of adventure games. This was one of the early ones. And then you have the creatures that can do damage to you, which are dragons, and they're calling them demons, but I think they should be called hobgoblins because they kind of look like they should be hobgoblins instead of demons. And there's giant snakes, which they hiss at you and they chase you down and kill you pretty quickly. Hear that? I got a whole shitload of arrows now. Oh, and one creature I forgot is that purple blobby thing, which is actually a blob, and they are indestructible. So if you see one, you want to just avoid it. They don't move too fast, but they can be a real pain. So you'll want to stay clear of them if you see them. Now let me talk a little bit about gameplay here. And the controls suck, but that's nothing new on the Intellivision. The Intellivision like to use every button on the controller, and let me tell you, there's a ton. There is a keypad that has numbers 1 through 9 and 0, plus a clear and an enter button. 4 buttons on the side of the controller, plus the control disc. And every button is used in this game except for the number 5 on the keypad. And that's a lot of buttons for a game this old with not that many things to do. You use the control disc to control your character to run around. You use the side buttons to run faster. And the arrow keys on the overlay actually shoot your arrows in that direction. So it's pretty interesting. You can run one direction and shoot your arrows in a totally different direction. Very useful in the game. But the controls are set so far apart that you have to keep looking down at your keypad to see where your fingers are on the keypad. So yeah, the controls suck, but that's, you know, every Intellivision game has sucky controls. And that stupid control disc, while it was a really cool feature at the time, they don't age real well, and they're kind of finicky. So it's pretty hard to have a fully functional control disc some 20 years later after the game was manufactured. Here we see the key, which is the final item I needed to pick up to get to the big smoking mountain and complete the game. Oh, and a quick word about replayability. This game, every time you play it, it's different. It randomly generates the overall big map, and the little maze maps are all randomly generated new each time you play the game. So it provides a ton of replayability fun. If you're picking up an Intellivision system, or you have one, this game is a must-have. It's one of the best games on the system. It's a great adventure game. It's one of the best adventure role-playing games of the early systems, and it's a general good time. It's a lot of excitement. The game uses sound very effectively. There's lots of different items you can pick up. It's just a good time. I'm your host, Dommie, from Classic Games Revisited. Until next time. And watch out for the hobgoblins. They'll get you if you don't get yourself with your own arrows.